Shalom Akim, Shalom Yasharallah. First off, I want to give all honor, glory, and praise unto Yahweh, Bahasham Yahweh Shai, Bahasham Rakakwadash. Give double honors to our apostles and elders of Great Millstone for teaching us this truth to rule well. All right. So, I'm going to be going into not exactly circumcision, but the practice of circumcision, comes down through the seed line of Shem, goes down through Abraham, and really it was meant for the Israelites. All right. So reading through this, this is just basically telling you what it is. You see a picture here of the Central Asia, dark-skinned people. All right. But reading down here, down to the, let me see, the history. All right. It says circumcision is the world's oldest planned surgical procedure, suggested by anatomist and hyperdiffusionist historian Grafton Elliott Smith to be over 15,000 years old, predating recorded history. All right. So, we know that we're not supposed to worry, about timelines too much, especially because Esau, Edom, he's a damn liar, so you're not too sure exactly when, but it goes through the history. All right. It says predating recorded history, there is no firm consensus as to how it came to be practiced worldwide. All right. So they don't know why. All right. And they say there's no actual history on it, but the scriptures are the history, man, and the Most High Yahweh had commanded it to be that way. It says one theory is that it began one geographic area and spread from there. All right, which is not a theory, it's a fact. It happened through Abraham. All right. Another is that several different cultures groups began its practice independently, which is not true. All right. In his 1891 work, History of Circumcision, physician Peter Charles Remondino suggested that it began as a less severe form of emasculating a captured enemy. Penectomy or castration would likely have been fatal, while some form of circumcision would permanently mark the defeated, yet leave him alive to serve as a slave. All right. And we are not slaves to the Most High, but we are servants of the Most High, But that's something that was commanded through Abraham, and Abraham wasn't an Israelite. He had the spirit of an Israelite. All right. But he wasn't what is it called? Physical Israelite. All right. He wasn't born through one of the tribes, So he was a Hebrew, but he was also Shemitic. All right. And where did Abraham's descendants end up going to? Egypt. So Egyptians must have done it too. All right. Because, wherever the Israelites go, people take their customs also. That doesn't necessarily mean that those people are, there might be some Israelites in Egypt right now, and there is, because we're scattered throughout the four corners of the earth. All right. But it says the history of migration and evolution of the practice of circumcision is followed mainly through the cultures and peoples in two separate regions in the lands south and east of the Mediterranean, starting with Sudan and Ethiopia. All right. And as the Israelites dwelt around those places, or the Hebrews, I should say. All right. Shem, it says the procedure was practiced by the ancient Egyptians and the Semites. All right. Which Semites are the descendants of Shem. All right. It says, and then by the Jews and Muslims. All right. So they put ancient Egyptians first, and then Shemites. All right. When really it was the Shemites, and then they went to Egypt. All right. Through the 12 children of Israel. And then it was practiced there. All right. And then it was left out to Jews, which were the southern kingdom. All right. Judah, Benjamin, and Levi. You know, because Jews goes back to the word Yahwadah or Yahwadyam, all right, which are people of the tribe of Judah. You know, it says in Muslims. So it spread out to other, you know, regions that became, what's it called, religious in their own ways, but stealing things from the Jews. All right. So the Egyptians didn't circumcise their people off of their own, you know, mindsets. It was all given by the Most High. All right. And it was given to the Shemites, all right, which came Abraham, Isaac, all right. From Shem, after the Noah's Ark, which was Shem, or Ham, Shem, and Japheth, all right. Those three came down and had children, all right. So you have descendants of Ham, which are the Africans, not you Negroes, all right. You have descendants of Japheth, all right, which were the ancient Greeks. You know, they dwelt in those places, and then they were kicked out by Edomites, and then they dwelt in islands, all right. And then you have Shem, which came down to be, you know, Ishmaelites. Edomites are part of Shem, you know, Israelites. So, you know, paying attention to the bloodline, all right, this has really always been about Israel. It says, with whom the practice traveled to and was adopted by the Bantu Africans, all right, which I haven't really read too much about them. It said, in Oceania, circumcision is practiced by the Australian Aborigines and the Polynesians, all right, which Polynesians are Japheth. It says, but also, like I said again, our people are scattered throughout the four corners of the earth. All right, so you might have some Polynesians that are Israelites, all right, some Australians, some Africans, you know, Asians, you know, and that's something really difficult for people to understand. It says there is also evidence that circumcision was practiced among the Aztec and the Mayan civilization in the Americas. All right. It says, but little detail is available about this history. And why is that? Because the Caucasian men, all right, the Edomites, when they came to the Americas, they burnt up all their history. That way there wouldn't be any, you know, type of remembrance that Israel was scattered throughout the four corners of the earth and that they inhabited the Americas. All right. You Gadites are your Native Americans. You Aztecs, you Mayans, all right. Your Issacharites, on down to the Chileans, the Chileans, the Argentinians would be Zebulon, all right. And then you have Asher, all right. All the 10 tribes, the lost 10 tribes came to the Americas, all right. And that's in the book of Ezra. Let me see if I can find it, actually. I don't really have anything lined up. All right, let me see. Slovakia. All right, but the you know, the natives, the Gadites, all right, they practice circumcision. The Aztecs, the Mayans, the so-called Latinos, all right, they all practice circumcision. And why is that? Because it was given to them. They were part of the tribes of Israel. All right. Salakia, I can't. All right, let me see. Second Ezra 13. 10, 11, 12, 13, and 49, 40. It says, this is 2nd Ezra, chapter 13 and 40. Those are the 10 tribes which were carried away prisoners out of their own land in the time of Hosea the king, whom Salmanaser the king of Assyria led away captive, and he carried them out of the water, and so came they into another land. All right. So that other land is just talking about a different land. All right. It says, but they took their counsel amongst themselves. All right. So after they went to the land, they took counsel amongst themselves that they would leave the multitude of the heathen and go forth into a further country. All right. A further country where never mankind dwelt. All right. So never mankind dwelt before. All right. That means no BS that Esau brings out according to a bone found under, a grave in San Antonio. All right. It dates back 13 million years ago. So mankind dwelt 13 million years ago here in the United States. All right. None of that bullshit. All right. Hard evidence. All right. Hardcore, rock solid evidence. It has to be shown, because that's what Esau does. And who can disagree with him? How can you contradict what he's saying when he has this technology and he could use it to his advantage? It says, verse 41, but they took counsel amongst themselves that they would leave the multitude of the heathen and go forth into a further country where never mankind dwelt. Verse 42, that they might there keep their statutes, which they never kept in their own land. So prior to, the northern kingdom taken into Assyrian captivity, all right, they didn't keep the law, statutes, and commandments. All right. They were the first ones to deviate from the law, statutes, and commandments. All right. It says, verse 43, and they entered into the Euphrates by a narrow passage of the river. Verse 44, for the Most High then showed signs for them and held still the flood till they were passed over. You see, so people are like, well, there's no evidence. There's no way that they could have passed through that. They weren't skilled. All right, which is what Esau Edom says. They weren't skilled enough. All right, the natives, they weren't skilled enough to travel through the seas. Then that's what they believe. And yeah, we possibly weren't. All right, but it says here, verse 44, for the Most High then showed signs for them. So which way to go? All right, and held still the flood till they were passed over. All right, so the Most High held still a flood so we can pass over it, man. It says, verse 45, for though the country, there was a great way to go. All right, and there was. It says, namely, of a year and a half, and the same region is called Arzareth. All right, and when you, who owns the world right now? It's the Jewish, all right, the Edomites, the Hebrew Edomites. And what do they have under their unholy book? Is that Arzareth is Babylon the Great. All right, Arzareth is America, the Americas. All right, that's what they have under their book, because they know the truth, man. It says, then dwelt they there until the latter time. And we're in the latter time, man. We're in those last days. So where else would they be? And now when they shall begin to come. All right, so who's they that begin to come? Esau and the rest of the tribes. All right, they met up here in the Americas. If the so-called Negroes can multiply by thousands, all right, thousands and thousands, how much more 10 different tribes, all right, because the so-called Negroes were 3 tribes, Judah, Benjamin, and Levi, all right, and they can multiply like rabbits, man, but so can the other 10 tribes, all right, and they did multiply, and that's why we're as the sand of the sea, man, because when you put all those 12 tribes together and all their children, all right, we overcome every other nation, man. It says, then dwelt they, all right, even the people that don't look like they're of our nation, All right, they have strange, what's it called? Strange skin. You know, compared to what a Jew would look like back in the day, to what an Israelite would look like. All right, verse 46. Then dwelt they there unto the latter time, and now when they shall begin to come. All right, so when they shall begin to come, who is that? Esau, Edom, and the rest of the tribes. All right, which is Judah, Benjamin, and Levi, came over here in slave ships. It says, the highest shall stay the springs of the stream again, that they may go through. Therefore sawest thou the multitude with peace. Verse 48. But those that left behind of thy people are they that were found within my borders. Verse 49. Now when he destroyeth the multitude of the nations that are gathered together, he shall defend his people that remain. All right, so a remnant will be saved, man. So the Most High stood stills the waters, all right? And that's how we were able to come to the Americas. All right, so you so-called Latinos, so-called natives, you're actually the children of Israel, children of the Most High. All right, it says there also, back over here in Wikipedia, it says is there is also evidence, so there is evidence that circumcision was practiced amongst the Aztec and the Mayan civilization in the Americas, but little detail is available about their history. Why is that? Because the so-called white man, all right, destroyed all of the history that they had, all the written books. All right, so down here it says, it says those secular scholars consider the story to be literal and not historical. Circumcision features prominently in the Hebrew Bible. The narrative in Genesis chapter 17 describes the circumcision of Abraham, all right, which means father of nations, all right, father of nations, and his relatives and slaves. You see that? So we had slaves that had to do the same thing. It says, in the same chapter, Abraham's descendants are commanded to circumcise their son in the 8th day of life as part of a covenant with the Most High. You see that? So it was part of a covenant to the Most High. In addition to proposing that circumcision was taken up by the Israelites purely as a religious mandate, scholars have suggested that Judaism patriarchs and their followers adopted circumcision to make penile hygiene easier in hot, sandy climates, as a rite of passage into adulthood, or as a form of blood sacrifice. All right, so they're trying to make all these other things, which the Most High could have done it that way. You know, we don't know the ways of the Most High, but mainly, all right, it was given to Abraham and his descendants, just like the promise of having that land, the promised land, all right, the promises of the Most High, everything is given to Israel. All right, so with that, let me go to Romans chapter 9 and verse 1. It says, I say the truth in Mashiach. I lie not, my conscience also bearing me witness with the Holy Spirit, that I have great heaviness and continual sorrow in my heart, for I could wish that myself were accursed for Mashiach, for my brethren, my kinsmen, according to the flesh, who are Israelites, to whom pertaineth the adoption, and the glory, and the covenants, and the giving of the law, and the services of the Most High, and the promises, whose are the fathers, and who came as concerning the flesh, Mashiach came, who is over all, God bless forever. Amen. All right, so this is talking about the laws, the covenants, the glory, the adoption, the services, the promises. Everything belongs to Israel. All right, so it is of no coincidence that you have Aztecs, all right, that you have Aztecs and that you have Mayans doing the same thing. Look at that. All right, that's Mesoamerica, all right, which is nowadays Mexico, which back in the day, Mesoamerica was called, what did they call it? I believe it was like Nahuatl, I know that's also their language. But let me go over here in Genesis 49 because I have it written down. All right. I believe I have it written down. Could be mistaken. But I know Nahuatl is the language they spoke. But if I'm not mistaken, the what's it called? It says Nahuatl means between two waters. All right, between two waters. All right, and Mexico is known for that language, Nahuatl, which means between two waters or between two burdens. All right, and it was also called Anahuac back then. All right, the word Ana, which is Strong's H6031, which means bow down. Tawak is H8432. It says midst or between. All right, to bow down between. And Issachar is known for what? All right, this is Genesis 49 and 14. Issachar is a strong ass catching down between two burdens. And as he saw the rest was good, and the land that it was pleasant, and bowed his shoulder to bear, and became a servant unto tribute. All right, and that's what happens whenever the so-called conquistadores, all right, which means to conquest, all right, when they came to the Americas. So yes, the Aztecs and the Mayans are Hebrew Israelites, man. That word Aztec too, Az, all right, meaning time, and Teca meaning people of. So the Azteca were actually a people of time, which the Spaniards named them, because before they named themselves Mexica, all right, Mexica, which means Mashiach, which means anointed. And the so-called Mexica believed that they were anointed by the Most High, all right? So the Aztecs and the Mayans are children of the Most High. They are Israelites, all right? You so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. Because when you read here, it says indigenous peoples, and see how they separated the Aztecs and the Mayans from Native Americans? All right, it says circumcision is practiced by some groups amongst Australian Aboriginal peoples, Polynesians, and Native Americans. Little information is available about the origins and history of circumcision among these peoples compared to the circumcision of the Middle East. And what is the similarity? That they are also children of the Most High. All right. Now, I'm not saying all Polynesians are and all, Australians are, but the bulk of our people is here. Because also, as you read on, I believe it's in Romans, it says, let me see. Let me see. I don't know exactly where it's at. Book of Romans, it was verse 6. It says, not as though the word of the Most High hath taken none effect, for they are not all Israel which are of Israel. So that doesn't mean that all Mexico and Mexicans are going to be saved, and that all Native Americans are going to be saved, all right? Because like I read in 2nd Ezra, some of our people have to be left behind, all right? And by left behind, I mean being left outside of the temple, which is profanity, which is going to be destruction to them. All right. So this is the book of Esther, chapter 9. No, it was chapter 8. And verse 16, it says, the Jews had light and gladness and joy and honor. All right. Because Hanan, which was a Amalekite, all right, descendant of an Amalekite king, an Agagite, all right, decided to kill off all the Jews in the land of Assyria, all right, was it Assyria? It was Persia, Salakia. And he wanted to kill Mordecai and hang him, kill him. So the Most High set up Esther with the king for a reason, and Mordecai was the one that actually brought that out. Let me see if I can get it over here. Okay, it's going to be chapter 4. So let me get that one real quick. Esther chapter 4 and verse 14. It says, "For thou altogether holdest thy peace at this time." All right, because they had sent out a decree that all Jews had to be done away with. All right, they had to be killed off because, they didn't bow down to Hanan, which wasn't even a king. All right, but Hanan made it seem, and being a devil that he is, hating the Jews, all right, since the birth of his great, 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 great relative, which is Esau Edom. All right, he was against the Jews. All right, just because Mordecai didn't bow down to him, he was like, "Yo, you know what? Fuck all the Jews." And that's why the Most High had happened what happened to Hanan and his relatives. All right, the Edomites. It says, "For thou altogether holdest thy peace at this time." All right, so it was a small time of trouble, which there's going to be a greater time of trouble, which that hasn't came yet. But it says, "Then shall their enlargement and deliverance arise to the Jews from another place. But thou and thy father's house shall be destroyed. And who knoweth whether thou art come to the kingdom for such a time as this?" All right, let me read that again. "And who knoweth whether thou art come to the kingdom for such a time as this?" And Esther bade them return Mordecai the answer. All right, and it says, but that was the point right there, that Mordecai had asked Esther, had told her, he was like, "Well, who knows exactly why you've been set up in the position that you have?" All right, because we know that the Most High rules in the kingdom of men. All right, and why doesn't it say kingdom of women? Because this kingdom doesn't belong to women. All right, Esau Edom is trying to make it that way, but really the rulers of the world have been men. All right, but so if he commands men, all right, if he has men ruling in his way that he wants them to, then what about women? Of course women are going to go through that too, man. Nobody's exceptional to the power of the Most High. You see? So, like the Most High has people set up, all right? That's exactly how everything happened for a reason back then, because the Most High has everything set up a certain way. So the kings of the world right now, they're set up by the Most High. So back in Esther 8 and 16, the Jews had light and gladness and joy and honor, all right, because they turned the tables on Esau Edom. It says, "And in every province and in every city, whithersoever the king's commandment and his decree came," all right, because Mordecai was set up in a high position, and he asked the king, if they can turn back what was commanded at first. So the king gave him the ring, and he was like, "Go ahead and do what you got to do." All right. It says, and in every province and in every city, whithersoever the king's commandment had his decree came, the Jews had joy and gladness, and a feast and a good day, and many of the people in the land became Jews. Look at that. And many of the people in the land became Jews. Now, can you become a Jew? No, you cannot become a Jew unless you already are. All right. There's no adoption. As we read, there is no adoption. And that's why the Most High is coming back to separate people. Those that are truly Israelites and those that are not. But notice how it doesn't say Israelites. All right. It says Jews, because I believe, if I'm not mistaken, in this time, all right, the Israelites were already fled. All right. Let me see if I can get that. I have this little timeline over here. All right. You have Salakia. All right, the book of Malachi, Nehemiah, Ezra, all right, which second Esdras, first Esdras is actually Ezra, all right. But you have Esther right here, which is Queen Vashti is disposed, all right, which is around that same time. So when Ezra wrote those books, all right, even before Ezra's time, they were already fled. They were already gone, all right. And you can read about the Aztecs, the Mayans. They don't go too far back, They don't go too many thousands and millions of years like they make it seem. All right. They came over here, which lines up with the scriptures, and it goes around that same time, you know. But around Esther's time, that's why they called Jews. All right, because the Israelites, the northern kingdom, had already been taken away captive and fled. All right. It says the Jews had joy and gladness and feast in a good day, and many of the people of the land became Jews, for the fear of the Jews fell upon them. So if they were Jews, how did they fear the Jews? That doesn't make any sense, you know? But it's because they feared them that they were like, well, you can't beat them, join them, you know? And that's where that saying comes from. If you can't beat them, join them, because uh, they would cleave unto Israel, since they couldn't beat them, and they would try and follow their ways, you know? But they weren't really Israelites, or, yeah, Israelites. All right, it says Yahudi, all right, but really it's Yahawad Yah, all right, which is from Judah, all right, Yahawada Khan. Yahawad is a Jew. Yahawada means praise Yahweh, all right, which is the name of the tribe of Israel, which is where Yahushai, our Lord and Savior, came from. All right. So, you know, there are Jews that aren't even part of Israel, even if they look like Israel. All right. But the circumcision, which the law, statutes, and the commandments, as we read in Romans 9, were given to the Israelites. All right. Ultimately, that's who it belongs to. So for Native Americans, all right, for Native Americans to be keeping, all right, which you can see here, indigenous people of the Americas: Mexico, Bolivia, Peru, Guatemala, United States, Ecuador, Canada, Chile, Colombia, Brazil, Argentina, Venezuela, Honduras, Panama, Nicaragua, Costa Rica, Paraguay, El Salvador, Guyana, Greenland, Belize, France, all right, Suriname, Dominica, Trinidad and Tobago, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Cuba. All right. So all these, you know, not saying that every single one of them, but these are the tribes of the children of Israel. All right. Because they also kept the law, statutes, and commandments. That's why it says here, all right, Salaki, I don't know where the hell that went. But in the history, the indigenous people, all right, Native Americans, which when I click on it, you can see all the natives, all right, Aztecs, Mayans included in here, man, you know. So you are the children of the Most High, you so-called Latinos and Native Americans, all right, which if you break down the word Native American, all right, it includes you so-called Latinos, you know, because native, let me look up the word so you know nobody says anything. Just to prove all things, native, meaning of native is being the place or environment in which a person was born or a thing that came into being, one's native land, belonging to a person by birth or to a thing by nature, inherent. All right, we're natives to the kingdom. You know, it says belonging by birth to a people regarded as indigenous to a certain place, especially a pre-literate people. Look at that. Pre-literate people. Native guides accompanied with expedition through the rainforest of indigenous origin, growth, or production. All right. So native, all right. Native means to be from, all right, to come from, to be here first. And why were they here first? Well, we read that in 2nd Esdras, whenever no mankind dwelt. All right. So to be native to this place collides with what 2nd Esdras 13 says, you know. So it's of no coincidence, man. It's of no coincidence. All right. So, well, let me get that again before my phone dies. Second book of Ezra. Was it second book? Yeah, the second book, 13. Verse 41. Let's highlight that. Put that blue. So 2nd Ezra 13 and 41. But they took this counsel among themselves, that they would leave the multitude of the heathen and go forth into a further country where never mankind dwelt. See? So if never mankind dwelt there, then you're a native. If that's your land and you've been there, that's to be native. That they might there keep their statutes which they never kept in their own land. So circumcision comes into the same thing. All right, like you could read in Genesis, 13? All right, Americans. Now, Americans is really talking about Americas. All right, because the Americas is the land. Americas. So the United States, North America, South America, also called the Americas, North and South America considered together. So to be native to the Americas, all right, which is exactly what 2nd Ezra 13 is talking about. All right, to be a native to a certain land because nobody else dwelt there. All right, can you call the so-called Edomites natives of this land? No, you can't call them Native Americans, even though they've been born over and over and over here in the Americas. They're not natives because mankind dwelt here before, which are who? The so-called Latinos, Native Americans. All right. So going back over here, the reason why circumcision was practiced in the Americas, all right, North, Central, and South, is because you are the children of the Most High. All right. And altogether, the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, all together, you are the 12 tribes of the children of Israel. So I'm going to end it with Revelations 21 and 12. All right. It says, and had a wall great and high, and had 12 gates, at the gates 12 angels, and names written thereon, which are the names of the 12 tribes of the children of Israel. All right. Which is you so-called Negroes, so-called Latinos, so-called Native Americans, more specifically to the elect of those places. I say shalom. All right. That's it for this lesson. A spirit had jumped on me to look up, about circumcision. And that's what I found. All right. So you so-called Negroes, Latinos, Native Americans, return to your true power, which is the Most High Yahweh, and to his only begotten Son, which is Yahweh Shai, which means he is a savior. He saves. All right. So with that, I want to give all honor, glory, and praise unto Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham Rakakwadash, giving double honors to our apostles and elders of Great Millstone for teaching us this truth to rule well. Shalom, stay strong out there, and keep fighting. Shalom.